Okay, hi there, welcome to a macro video. In economics classes just the other day we were thinking about the UK economy and asking the question, can the UK reach full employment? So let's spend a few minutes in this video thinking about that concept. Here's a chart showing the rate of unemployment seasonally adjusted for the UK since 1971. And you'll see we now have the lowest unemployment rate for over 45 years. Over the course of successive cycles, the peak in unemployment, can you see this, has been falling from 12% in the early 80s to just over 10% in the 1990s to just over 8% in the last recession post financial crash. So there has been, if you like, a trend fall in the peaks of unemployment. The UK economy seems to be successfully getting more people back into work. However, there's no universally agreed definition of full employment. Some people think it's when the output gaps close, where there's effectively you've eliminated most of the cyclical unemployment. So there's there's no substantial lack of demand for goods and services. Other people think it's when the number of job vacancies equals the number of people actively seeking work. Keep in mind, of course, that full employment is not zero unemployment. There will always be some frictionally unemployed people in transitional unemployment looking for a new job, perhaps new entrants to the labour market. So the modern definition of full employment tends to be where the number of people in short-term unemployment, less than 6 months, is equivalent to the stock of job vacancies registered with the agencies. Current position in the UK, current situation is that unemployment is now below 1.3 million. 3.8% of the labour force, a record employment rate of 76%. Keep that figure in mind, we'll come back to that in a second or two. 76% of the population of working age in work. Some of that's full-time, some of that's part-time, of course. And just under 800,000 unfilled job vacancies. However, those figures look good, but still a hard core of over 1/3 people who've been out of work for at least a year. And of course, youth unemployment remains high. It's come down, but it's still well over 10%, 13.3% the last time the figures were published. The North East has the highest regional unemployment rate, 5.8%. Northern Ireland actually has the lowest current figure, 2.8%. A cluster of regions at around 3%, Northern Ireland at 2.8%. If you look at the highest unemployment rate locally by local authority, that's Hartlepool in the North East, 8.7%. I mentioned that the employment rate was 76%, which is really good. However, these are some of the cities with the lowest rate of employment in the UK. And I think if you get a question on full employment, always be aware of the local and the regional context. So, for example, Blackburn in Lancashire has an employment rate 12% below the UK average. Dundee has very low employment. All of these cities, in fact, have employment rates below 70%. And there's a lot of interest at the moment in trying to activate and increase the funding for regional employment initiatives, particularly focused in these areas. So can the UK can it attain full employment? Here are some reasons for optimism. Firstly, unemployment's fallen, yet inflation, consumer price inflation, has remained close to the 2% target. Secondly, the policy interest rates set by the Bank of England remain at historic lows, 0.75%. Indeed, Bank of England thinking about cutting interest rates in the months ahead. There's growing evidence that the decade or more of fiscal austerity may be coming to an end, hinting that there should be an increase in public spending, which could perhaps could boost employment. The equilibrium rate of unemployment appears to have dropped. Some evidence, for example, that the so-called non-accelerating inflation rate of unemployment, the NAIRO, has come down, and that the Phillips Curve may have shifted or perhaps just flattened. We'll come to that in a second. And of course, the UK has a more flexible labour market than it had 10, 20 years ago. That may have been a factor in increasing employment and giving more people a chance to work. This Phillips Curve relationship you may well be aware of linking different parts of the course, I've drawn here a Phillips curve that has shifted inwards a little bit and also flattened from SRPC1, short run Phillips curve 1 to SRPC2. What does this mean? Well, a flatter Phillips curve means that the relationship between unemployment and wage inflation becomes softer. And it means that unemployment rates can fall further, for example, from U1 to U2, without there being a significant pickup in wage demand and sort of pay inflation, if you like. Markets become more competitive, globalization, flexible labour markets, all that kind of stuff may well have flattened the unemployment-inflation relationship. However, key point to bear in mind is that yes, unemployment is at a 45-year low. Can we get to full employment? Well, there are some significant barriers to people finding work. There's still a significant regional divide and also big differences in unemployment rates within regions, within, for example, Greater London. Unemployment is low, yes, but there's estimated to be a very high level of underemployment. People who have a job, part-time, a few hours a week, but actually want to work longer hours. The quality of jobs matters just as well as the aggregate employment rate. Employment at a record high, 76%, but more people than before in working poverty, people who have a job but are still claiming income-related benefits. Youth unemployment remains a structural problem, above 10%. There's a hard core of long-term unemployment. People have been out of work for at least a year, sometimes much longer. We've talked about those areas where employment rates are very low, so pockets and areas of significant economic and social disadvantage. And there's some signs that economic growth in the UK has been slowing down. The Bank of England now think our trend growth is below 2%. Now, to get to full employment, we need to avoid a recession, but we also need an economy to grow to create the new jobs for people to get back into work. If growth is slowing, that could be a barrier to reaching this target. There we go, an update for you on the question of whether the UK economy can reach full employment.